Hello, everyone. Welcome to Overtime. We are covering two stories that are not entirely unrelated, but it's a mess. We're looking at a mess right now, and it's about to get a lot messier. As you know, the U.S. government is currently shut down. There is a stalemate as the Republicans do not have enough votes to pass a continuing resolution that would open up the government, at least for a short period of time, while they negotiate an actual budget, because there's been so much controversy over what's going to be cut and what's going to be funded. So essentially, a continuing resolution just says, well, we haven't reached a conclusion on any of these things, but we're going to keep funding the government at the current rate that we've been doing. One of the only remaining sticking point is subsidies for Obamacare. Democrats are saying that they will not get on board with a continuing resolution if that resolution does not extend the subsidies for Obamacare, which are set to expire on November 1st. The Republicans have said, well, no, that's a change, and we don't want to make any changes. They're going to expire. Let's agree to the continuing resolution with the way things are right now, and we will negotiate it. Now, what I find most interesting about this argument is they're making it sound like these kinds of changes, even in continuing resolution, are uncommon or unacceptable. And the reality is the Trump tax cuts were supposed to be temporary. These were temporary tax cuts the first Trump administration did. They were supposed to expire. And as soon as they got a chance, they said, no, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make them permanent. These subsidies permit people to remain on, to keep their health insurance. Without these subsidies, it's expected that the average person who is getting insurance through Obamacare is going to have their rates go up 30%. Most of these people, one of the whole reasons we have Obamacare is to ensure that people who otherwise would have a hard time paying for it can get health insurance. Increasing this by 30% is going to make it a lot harder for them to remain insured and is going to uninsure a number of people. So what the Democrats are asking for is that those continue while we work on a budget. That is what the argument is essentially about. So, and again, the pearl clutching that Democrats are asking for a continuation of these subsidies, which currently exist, and to not allow them to expire when Republicans have not allowed the Trump's tax cuts to expire or any other temporary things to expire. I've heard the premiums will go up. The last I saw was 30% hikes, but if the premiums, if there's a source that says they're going to go up that much, I mean, I don't know how much those what is it, not breaks, but the tax credits, or just the subsidies. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. I don't know how much they impacted. The last I saw was about 30%. So I may look into that before we get to the end of the show, in case that number's wrong. But it gets worse than that. Now, just imagine for everybody who's on that system having their health insurance rates rise 30%. That's bad enough. But the Department of Agriculture has said that it will no longer be able to keep funding food stamps and sending food stamps out past November 1st as well. So food stamps will stop going out. Now, in fact, in some states, they've already stopped. Massachusetts is having a problem where they have been unable to make all of their food stamp their food stamp obligations, in part, and new people who have signed up for food stamps have had to be denied because they cannot register new people for food stamps so long as there are payments outstanding in the current system. So people who now need food stamps, whose situation in life has changed and suddenly needs food stamps, will be unable to get them because, again, until everybody currently on the system is paid, new people can't join, which makes sense, but is awfully draconian to the people who are trying to join the system. The Department of Agriculture has also said that any state that wishes to cover this out of their own coffers can, but they will not be reimbursed. So if any state that covers the federal program out of its own state coffers isn't going to be compensated when the federal government comes back online. They're not going to pay what what was covered by the states that was actually their obligation. That is pretty stunning. The saving grace is the Department of Agriculture's contingency fund, which is a $6 billion fund to cover, and the fund was created just for this reason, to cover any shortfall in the system caused by any sort of fluctuations. And there's fluctuations all the time. Some individual months they come up short. They tap into the $6 billion fund in order to make the payments. However, in Trump's big, beautiful bill, they made a change to the Department of Agriculture's policy on how and when it can tap into that $6 billion. And it said during a government shutdown, it cannot. So the Republicans literally changed the law to make it so that the USDA cannot tap into that $6 billion to feed people during a government shutdown. That is absolutely insane. It is the deliberate weaponization of starvation in the United States of its citizens as a bargaining tool in negotiations in Congress. Democrats are saying, well, of course they're allowed to. The fund was actually created to work during shutdowns and has been used that way in the past, and both statements are true. Unfortunately, it is also true that they no longer legally can because of the big, beautiful bill. Having said that, once again, I'm going to accuse the Republicans of pearl clutching, and here's why. Legally, Trump is not allowed to take any of the money that he has taken out of various organizations. So he's taken loads of money from the Department of Education, the FDA, all of these places that are no longer being funded, and he doesn't have money to give to route to the FDA. Where's the money that all the savings from Doge, that those were budgeted, but even taking that money was illegal in the first place, and it didn't stop him. So now, why doesn't he just give it to the FDA or call up the FDA and say, release the $6 billion and feed starving people? We'll worry about the legalities of it later. It was my bill that said you couldn't do it in the first place. It's the Republicans who made it illegal. So it's really bizarre to me that they're claiming this fidelity to how the money is supposed to be spent when people are going to be starving, and they have no fidelity to it when the money is going either towards Congress, who is, by the way, still getting paid and still getting their health insurance and all of these other things, and going into the government coffers. If the U.S. Department of Agriculture does not change its policy, if Trump does not produce funding from some other source, they will be unable to give food stamps out. The SNAP program itself will shut down. This has been described as a, quote, critical food assistance program. It's food stamps. and that will put 42 million, that's more than 10% of the population, at risk they will actually not be at risk for food insecurity. They will be in food insecurity and will be at risk for, in some cases, starvation here in the U.S. To make matters worse, the WIC program is also set to run out of money on the 1st. The WIC program provides food assistance specifically to infants and new mothers. The mothers need the food assistance because their body has been through an ordeal, and we believe, presumably in this country, that healthy mothers can help take care of their children and raise them well. So it's of benefit to society to make sure that mothers are have a safety net. And babies, well, I know that for many pro-lifers, the policy is, well, once you're born, kind of screw the baby. But there are a lot of other people who believe that babies should be fed and should have food. And 7 million pregnant women, new moms, and infants will lose their WIC food supplements. It's not food supplements. It's the supplemental income to pay for nutrition and food for moms, young children, and pregnant women. That'll be 7 million. So the total there is an estimated 50 million people who will suddenly find themselves short of food as of the 1st, and including, again, the most vulnerable pregnant women and new moms. So, all told, between those two food programs and Obamacare signups, which start November 1st, but the new prices will not include the subsidies, ergo will be up a minimum of, on average, my understanding is 30%. We're looking at a 30% hike in insurance and a complete cutoff of all food stamps and aid to new mothers. 7 million moms is 14. The 7 million pregnant women might be, depending on how you choose to calculate it. The number is 7 million pregnant women, new moms, and young children and or babies. So it's 7 million people total is the calculation. However you want to parse that. At any rate, between that and the food stamps and the Obamacare, we are looking at an economic and we're looking at the U.S. falling off a cliff in terms of taking care of anybody who is either underemployed, unemployed, or having any kind of issues for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because they're bums. Absolutely. I've met more than a few myself. And sometimes it's bad luck, nothing to do with them. That's why these safety nets exist. At any rate, so what is getting funded? It's interesting you should ask. The tariffs are generating revenue, and instead of getting the revenue from all of these things that he's defunded, apparently you can't say defund the police, but you can defund the organization that keeps Ebola out of the country. I don't get that. But at any rate, $300 million have been pulled out from tariff income to pay for the U.S. military. What I find interesting, however, is that tariff income came from Americans. So it's okay to pay for the military using American taxpayers, but it's not okay to pay for Americans to eat using American taxpayer money. And that I'm not entirely, again, don't understand. The president has deployed I want to make sure I get the right name of the carrier group here, the world's largest warship, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and the entire carrier group has been deployed to the Caribbean. It is going to be poised to strike Venezuela. At this point, it's crystal clear that Venezuelans believe that they're going to be attacked. They believe they're going to be attacked by air, and they have prepared and redeployed their air defenses. That means they will fire back. So if it's anything but a drone or a missile, if an F-16, if anything from the aircraft carrier, which carries aircraft, that's the point. So if you're deploying aircraft over Venezuelan airspace, aside from that being an act of war, it's going to get shot at. And if it gets shot down, I suspect there's going to be a retaliation. Donald Trump has doubled the price on Maduro's head. Yes, we have a bounty on their president. And Maduro is saying that there will be massive instability if they attempt to attack the United States. I think he's right, but I also think that that's kind of the point. This appears to be a attempt at regime change in Venezuela. We talked about how and why yesterday on Downtime with Commander Lance McMillan, but it looks like the United States wants Maduro out and probably to install its own puppet regime. Now, that may or may not be a good idea. In my experience, it's almost always bitten us in the ass, and there's a whole bunch of historical examples to that, my favorite being Iran, which had a democracy until we showed up. They had a democracy. They were as liberal as we were. You know, women were allowed to read and get jobs and drive and do things like that. They could wear bikinis at the beach. And then we showed up, installed someone, and all that changed. So, at any rate, it may or may not be a good idea, but I'm trying to figure out, given that the U.S. is in a pretty stable and safe place, we're the world's richest country, I'm trying to figure out why we need to spend money to topple a regime in Venezuela when we've got our own problems here. Wasn't the whole idea America first? Why are we going into Venezuela? They don't have anything we need. What we do need right now is money. So why is it going to an aircraft carrier group to invade a country that's done absolutely nothing to us? Speaking of countries that haven't done anything to us, Colombia also looks like it is rising quickly on the list of targets to invade. Donald Trump has called out the now, did he also put a bounty on the head of on the presidents of? Let me just quickly. Right now, any information leading to the arrest of President Maduro of Venezuela will receive a $50 million reward. The U.S. is accusing him of being a member of the criminal groups and cartels in Venezuela that's shipping drugs into the United States. So they are blaming him for the deaths in the United States and since the cartels are now all terrorist organizations, Maduro is ostensibly, by U.S. logic, a terrorist, despite being president of Venezuela. So there's a $50 million reward for his arrest. Meanwhile, Trump has said that Colombian President Gustavo Petro is also a cartel member, a, quote, illegal drug leader, and said that he's a bad guy. I love Trump's flourish with language. It's just so descriptive. You know exactly what he means when he talks. So apparently the president of Colombia is a bad guy. And the U.S. has said that, quote, the forces, the ones that we're sending to Venezuela, will augment and extend capabilities to disrupt narcotic trafficking and degrade and dismantle these crime organizations. This would include in Colombia. We're not expecting an attack there, but it looks like he's basically said he's going to attack Venezuela. Again, Venezuela clearly believes they're about to get attacked because people are fleeing the country, private planes are leaving and not coming back, and SAM sites and missile defense systems are all being prepared. So it looks like we're about to go to war with Venezuela. It looks like Colombia may be next. We don't see any defensive motion out of Colombia right now. And Trump hasn't said that he's going to attack Colombia, but he has said he's going to do land attacks, and it's clear. I mean, the boats that he's hit were Venezuelan, all but one. And how many boats is he up to now? I've forgotten. I think they've hit 20 boats now. I gotta look that up. Anyways, so the administration is imposing sanctions on Petro. This is what we did to Venezuela before we sent the carrier group there. So we will have the largest carrier group on the planet ready to invade apparently both countries, while 47 million Americans will be facing significant food insecurity. Let's see. On Friday, Hegseth announced another vessel destroyed, 6 suspected. I love that Hegseth actually used the word 6 suspected narco-terrorists. Wait a minute, they were suspected? You can't just kill people on suspicion. They have to be either convicted or military. I mean, if it's a death penalty thing, you can do that once they're convicted, but you can't sit there and say, yeah, we're going to execute this suspected, well, you know what? Wow. Okay. So, let's see. The George Washington, the Ford is the latest aircraft carrier that we made. It has a crew of about 5,000 people. It can hold 75 military aircraft, including fighter aircraft like the F-18 and the E-2 Hawkeye, which can act as an early warning system. It has missiles, drones, and surface-to-air missiles, medium-range missiles, and really rather sophisticated guidance and targeting systems. So, and it's an aircraft carrier group, so there's going to be other ships there too, capable of doing significant destruction. So we will see. At any rate, they're on their way. The intention clearly appears to be to attack. At some point, it looks, I would assume, invade, because if we get Maduro, there's nobody to replace him right now. So we would have to install a puppet regime, which we've done before. We're very good at botching it. We've botched this many times. We know the process well. So that's going to have to happen. And then I don't know what's going to happen in Colombia, but thank God, thank God we're not renewing the Obama subsidies. Whew. And the Republicans are accusing Democrats of holding people hostage. The Democrats want the subsidies to continue. That's all. People have those subsidies right now. They want them to continue. They don't want people to get sticker shock of this huge increase on their insurance. And then we sit and we sort this out. They've said that they're willing to sort it out after, but they've repeatedly said negotiation and compromise are weakness. They've lied repeatedly. So why on earth should we sit here and say, yeah, we can trust you to get this done afterwards? So right now there is no sign of motion from the Democrats or the Republicans on the impasse. Right now still, at last hearing, The Republicans are being blamed for the shutdown, as is Trump. If this continues to November 1st, at a minimum, anyone who uses Obamacare is going to blame the Republicans because they understand why we have this impasse. Coupled with people who start to lose food stamps, I don't see this going the Republicans' way, but they don't want to appear weak. And at any rate, we are looking at 8 days before, and it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen. I see Titan just wrote that food prices are going to go up. They will go up. They will absolutely go up. There's also going to there's going to be a huge number of problems. It's going to affect the businesses that take the food stamps in because they get compensated for that. So every grocery store is going to see a drop in revenue because people aren't buying things anymore because they don't have the food stamps to pay for those things. So there's going to be ripple effects and shock waves throughout the entire system. So we will see where we land. It is November 1st. All three of these things happen at the same time. My suspicion is we're going to see an invasion or a significant attack on Venezuela the day before. That way, the number one news isn't nobody's getting food stamps and 10% of Americans are starving to death. It's going to be, oh my God, we're in a war. That's my suspicion. 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴, thank you very much, $20. I'm late, screw Trump, Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slava. Thank you for your support, and we will continue to keep everyone apprised of this situation. But this is a significant threat to the U.S. economy. This could trigger other economic issues that we've got. This could cascade into something very big. Even if it doesn't, it's going to be very big just because food stamps... Nobody is on food stamps because they want to be. It's humiliating to have to pay with food stamps. It's humiliating to have to say, put this back because I can't afford it. The cashier's heard it 1,000 times. The cashier doesn't give a fuck. It's humiliating to have to say that anyway. It's humiliating. And Republicans know this because they're always running around talking about the value of hard work and yet assume that given the option, nobody would actually work. They're all just trying to cheat off the system. That tells me more about them and their mindset than it does about the Democrats. And I guarantee you people will take advantage of the system. And there are people who will stay on their couches and do nothing. There are, and we've found them, and they're going to keep being there. Guess what? People take advantage of the system. People like Trump. People like half the U.S. Supreme Court. People like Thiel. People like, just go back to autocrats. Listen, guys, it's on both sides. So let's get it so we're at least feeding people before we start a war. I shouldn't have to be telling Republicans this. What the hell? They're not Republicans anymore. They need to come up with a new title because this is not. Nothing they've done since Trump has gotten into office has anything to do with Republican values as the party has ever had, and it certainly has nothing to do with being conservative. And for people who sit there and say, well, Trump's ended all these wars, he's about to start two that we don't have, they're not wars of necessity. We weren't attacked. This is the exact interventionalism that he has said, that everybody said, we shouldn't be intervening in other countries. We shouldn't be in Europe. We shouldn't be in Ukraine. Well, why are we in Venezuela then? Oh, because they're sending us drugs. And we can stop it. You know how many drugs we make ourselves? There are plenty of solutions to it without going around trying to completely wipe out the country. And by the way, once we install somebody else, what's going to keep that person in line? What's going to keep that person from telling the U.S., oh, I'll help you, no problem. And then just going right back to sending the drugs here. Oh, if they do, we'll just kill them and install someone else? No. So that person will be smarter and will bribe Trump with his own airplane. That's how you get the U.S. to look the other way. If you're Saudi Arabia, well, there are plenty of ways to bribe Trump and just go keep on murdering your citizens and funding people who go around and attack the U.S. Just really have to pay Trump. If I'm wrong, somebody explain it to me, but I haven't seen anyone. No. So I think that's what we're going to see. It's going to be a very interesting November. I'd seen several papers say that there was signs that there was a deal coming. I haven't seen any signs, and the papers that I saw had that in like the headline, which the headline isn't written by the author of the article, which most people don't realize. When you write an article for any organization, Reuters, New York Times, whatever, you don't get to write the headline. You do not write the headline. You just write the article. The editor writes the headline. I haven't seen in any article I've read any evidence that either side is budging. I've seen a couple of headlines that say, oh, deal is almost guaranteed. I heard we were going to have a deal by today. That was a headline, and it was all fluff dancing around the fact that there's no evidence that it's going to get done. So we'll see. We're going to keep an eye on this, obviously, on the Discord. There's a number of other things going on, but it's not breaking. It's not anything that can't wait for a regular show. But once the biggie here was we learned that, and when I first heard the FDA was not going to tap the $6 billion fund. Now that $6 billion sounds like a lot. Unfortunately, it would only cover the month of November. The $6 billion, that's roughly how much the food stamp program costs a month, is about $6 billion. So it would cover them for November, but at least it would cover them for November. So when I heard that they weren't going to do that, I was like, wait a minute, they are actually legally required to, and they were when the fund was set up. But again, the big, beautiful bill not only removed that legal requirement, but legally forbade them from doing it during a government shutdown. So on at least one level, this has been planned. They didn't plan to do a shutdown. They didn't plan to, we're going to, weaponize this. But they planned that if a shutdown happens, they want this as a weapon in their arsenal. That's the only reason to say that during a shutdown you can't fund out of this emergency fund. This fund is specifically for when they don't have money, whether it's because of a shutdown or because they're short a month. There was more need, or just because a month ended up having 31 days and they had budgeted for 30. Whatever it is, this fund is explicitly there to take care of that. And they said, except in a shutdown. There's only one reason to add that in. You want to make sure in a shutdown you've got a time limit. Well, you could sit here and fight for your constituents as they starve to death, or you could just do things our way. That's what they're looking to do. So glad they put America first. I would really hate to see what life would be like if they were putting America second. This has been over time. Once again, two food programs, the SNAP program, which is food stamps, and the WIC program, which supplies nutritious food to pregnant women, new mothers, and their infants. Both of those programs will stop being able to fulfill their obligations on November 1st. The emergency fund explicitly designed to help U.S. AD to the emergency fund explicitly designed for them to be able to continue exactly in a situation like this has been locked out by the big beautiful bill. They cannot do that. So at this point, we are expecting all both of those to expire, and then Obamacare, the subsidies for that will no longer apply on the November 1st open enrollment date. So you're going to see a minimum of an average, my understanding is, of 30% increase to healthcare subsidies. So it's yeah, it's a lot. So we'll keep you posted on that. For after the show, we are going to send everyone to Riverboat Jack, who is talking about Trump's, the title of River Jack's show is, "It Sure Looks Like Trump Wants to Invade Venezuela," which I think is, I'm going to say this about Riverboat Jack. You know, it's like you jump to conclusions just because an aircraft carrier group is sent to Venezuela, and because there's a bounty on Maduro's head, and because we've been blowing up extrajudicially murdering Venezuelans. You know, I mean, come on. That could be anything. It doesn't mean we want to invade Venezuela. It's hyperbolic, but we're going to send you over there anyway. Please be sure to say hi to Riverboat Jack for me, and we hope you enjoy that content. Thank you very much again for the super chat. Dunk on you. Our Discord, we will be keeping an eye on this, and we will keep people apprised of the economic and financial situation, as well as the shutdown in the U.S. as that information continues. Have a good evening. Thank you.